Have you ever wondered why the person you gave your heart to left you feeling empty instead of loved? You replay the moments in your head trying to figure out where it all went wrong, asking yourself if you missed something, if there were clues you ignored. Deep down, a part of you knows the truth. He wasn't truly there for you. He wasn't building with you. He was using you. And the hardest part is that you didn't see it until it was too late. That realization cuts deep, but it is also the beginning of freedom, because once you recognize it, you can never be blind again. Love should never feel like confusion, like a game of guessing his intentions or a constant battle to earn crumbs of affection. Yet many of us stay blind because we want to believe so badly in what could be. We tell ourselves stories to cover up the cracks because the thought of facing reality feels unbearable. But let me ask you this. Isn't the pain of being used far heavier than the pain of letting go? Isn't it better to face a difficult truth than to live in a beautiful lie? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones because they lead you towards strength, clarity, and self-respect. The reason you feel lost right now is not because you are weak. It's because you loved with your whole heart. You gave more than you received. And when that love was taken for granted, it left a wound. But wounds can heal, and scars, though permanent, are proof that you survived. If you are listening to this right now, it means a part of you already knows you deserve better. You are searching for answers, not to dwell on the past, but to rise from it stronger, wiser, and unshakable. That is the power hidden inside this pain. Think of it this way. The fact that you were blind before doesn't mean you are broken. It means you cared enough to see the best in someone even when they showed you less. That kind of heart is rare, and it is powerful. But from this moment forward, that same heart must be protected. You will not stay blind again. You will not be manipulated again. You will not let anyone take from you without giving back. Because today is the day you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. As you continue watching, you will begin to see the signs that were once invisible to you. You will discover the subtle ways he was using you and why you didn't recognize it at first. You will understand how to break the cycle of confusion and reclaim your power. This is not just about looking back at what he did. It's about learning to move forward with eyes wide open, so no one ever dims your light again. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear has the power to shift everything. By the end, you won't just see the signs more clearly. You'll feel stronger, more awake, and more in control of your own story. And that is the real reward. Never again giving away your worth to someone who cannot value it. This is your turning point, and it begins right now. One of the clearest signs he was using you is the feeling you had to fight for his attention, as if love was something to be earned rather than freely given. Do you remember how often you found yourself waiting for him to text first, waiting for him to show interest, waiting for him to care? That waiting was not love. It was control, because someone who truly values you doesn't keep you hanging on a string, giving you just enough to stay hopeful, but never enough to feel secure. That imbalance was never your fault. It was a deliberate pattern, designed to keep you uncertain and dependent. When love is real, you feel safe, you feel seen, you feel like you belong. But when someone is using you, you feel unsettled. You second guess every word, every silence, every delay. That constant questioning isn't a reflection of your weakness. It's the evidence of his inconsistency. He gave you highs so addictive that you overlooked the long, painful lows. That is how manipulation works. It feeds on hope, then starves you of certainty until your mind becomes trapped in the cycle of chasing validation that never truly arrives. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same tactic used to keep people hooked on gambling machines. Sometimes you win, most times you lose, but the possibility of a reward keeps you playing. He did the same to your heart, offering moments of warmth to erase the cold, flashes of intimacy to cover the distance, promises without commitment. And because you believed in love, you held on, you gave more, you tried harder, you hoped longer. But here's the truth. The problem was never your effort. It was his intention. Let that sink in for a moment. The fact that you stayed doesn't make you foolish. It makes you human. You wanted to believe in someone you cared about, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. But now you see clearly. Love should not feel like gambling. Love should not feel like you're always one step away from losing it all. Love should not demand that you prove your worth just to be noticed. The moment you understand this, you step out of the cycle. You stop chasing what was never real, and you begin building a life where your worth is never questioned again. Every second you spent doubting yourself was energy he stole. Every unanswered message, every broken promise, every time you felt invisible, those were not reflections of who you are. They were reflections of who he chose to be. The blindness was temporary, but the vision you are gaining now will last forever. You are no longer the person who settles for uncertainty. You are no longer the person who accepts excuses. You are no longer the person who confuses inconsistency with passion. You are becoming someone stronger, someone unshakable, someone who knows that love must feel steady, not fragile. As you let go of that old version of yourself, feel the weight lifting from your chest. Feel the clarity rising in your mind. Feel the strength that comes from knowing you can walk away from anything that does not honor your soul. This is not about regret. It is about awakening. Because once you see the truth, you cannot go back to being blind. And from this day forward, you never will. Another sign he was using you lies in how he treated your dreams, your goals, and your voice. Think about it. When you opened up about the things that mattered most to you, did he listen with genuine care, or did he dismiss them as unimportant? A person who values you doesn't just hear your words. They respect your vision. They stand beside you, encouraging your growth, even if it doesn't benefit them directly. But when someone is only there to take, they minimize your ambitions because your light threatens to outshine the role they want you to play. You may have noticed how your achievements were ignored or worse, downplayed. Maybe you heard words that seemed supportive on the surface but carried an edge of criticism underneath. That subtle sabotage is not love. It is insecurity disguised as affection. When he belittled your goals, he was really protecting his own power. By keeping you small, he made it easier to keep control. That's not partnership, that's possession. And deep inside, you felt it. You felt the sting every time your excitement was met with indifference. You felt the silence when you expected pride. Those moments were not accidents. They were choices. True love never asks you to shrink. True love expands you. It fuels your courage. It celebrates your victories as if they were shared. But when you were with him, you likely felt the opposite. You felt yourself holding back, afraid that your success would create distance. That fear was planned and not natural. It was the result of constant signals that your worth was conditional, that your voice had less meaning than his needs. That dynamic is the very definition of being used. He valued what you could give him, but not who you were becoming. And here is the liberating truth. You do not need anyone's permission to grow. Your voice matters whether he recognized it or not. Your dreams hold weight whether he supported them or not. His failure to honor them does not diminish their value. It exposes his inability to rise with you. A secure partner is never threatened by your greatness because they understand that love is not competition, it is collaboration. If he could not see that, it says everything about him and nothing about you. This realization is painful, but it is also a gift. It frees you from the chains of seeking validation from someone who was never capable of giving it. It shows you that your worth is not negotiable and your path is not dependent on someone else's approval. Imagine what happens when you reclaim that truth. You stop apologizing for your ambition. You stop hiding your potential, and you stop shrinking to fit into a space too small for who you are meant to become. You are not here to be used. You are here to rise. You are here to shine so brightly that the right people cannot help but be drawn to your light, not to dim it, but to walk alongside it. Every time you hold back to keep someone comfortable, you betray your own future. But every time you honor your voice, you step closer to a life where love is mutual, respect is unwavering, and growth is shared. That is the kind of love you deserve. That is the kind of love you will accept from now on. And once you commit to that standard, no one will ever use you again. There's also the way he handled effort, the balance between what you gave and what he returned. Think about how much of yourself you poured into keeping the connection alive, the late night conversations you initiated, the plans you organized, the comfort you offered when he needed it. Now ask yourself, how often did he give the same in return? When someone truly values you, effort flows naturally. It does not need to be begged for, and it never feels one-sided. But when you are being used, the scales are always tilted. You carry the weight while he reaps the benefits. You may remember moments where you convinced yourself it was normal to do more, to love harder, to sacrifice greater. You told yourself that patience would pay off, that loyalty would eventually be noticed. But deep down, a voice inside whispered that something wasn't right. That voice was correct. Real partnership thrives on balance. Both people invest, both people show up, both people lean into the relationship, even when it is difficult. If you found yourself constantly giving, constantly adjusting, constantly compromising while he coasted on your energy, it wasn't love, it was exploitation. What makes this so dangerous is how easily it becomes invisible. You get so used to carrying the load that you stop noticing the weight. You convince yourself it's just part of loving deeply, that it's your role to fix, to heal, to hold it together. But here's the truth. Love is not meant to drain you. Love is meant to replenish you. And if you walked away from every interaction feeling emptier instead of fuller, then what you experienced was not love at all. It was taking. This is why many people struggle to leave situations where they're being used. They mistake their generosity for love, believing that if they just keep giving, eventually it will be reciprocated. But psychology shows us that people who take without giving rarely change when the pattern benefits them. Why would they? If they can keep receiving while giving little in return, there's no reason to grow. That is why your strength lies not in giving more, but in drawing boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are standards. They are the line between what honors you and what harms you. When someone repeatedly shows that they will not meet you halfway, you have a choice. Either continue pouring yourself into an empty cup or step back and protect your energy. And stepping back is not weakness. It is power. It is the moment you declare that your love is valuable, your effort is sacred, and your heart is not a resource to be exploited. Imagine how your life changes when you only allow people who match your energy to stay close. Suddenly, you no longer feel drained. You feel alive. You no longer wonder if you are enough. You know you are more than enough. You no longer chase effort. You receive it without asking. This is the shift that happens when you recognize the imbalance and refuse to carry it any longer. You deserve a love that gives back what you give. You deserve a connection that feels equal, not lopsided. You deserve to feel supported, cherished, and chosen every single day. Never again should you accept being the only one showing up, because your time, your effort, and your heart are priceless. And the moment you realize this, you step into a new reality where no one can ever use you again. Another way he revealed his intentions was through consistency, or rather the lack of it. Consistency is one of the purest forms of love. It shows up in reliability and actions that match words and patterns you can trust. When someone values you, their effort doesn't disappear after the first spark fades. Their interest doesn't fluctuate depending on convenience. Their commitment doesn't vanish the moment life becomes less exciting. But when you are being used, you feel the instability everywhere. One day he's fully present, the next day he's distant. One moment he speaks of a future, the next he avoids the subject entirely. That constant shifting is not passion, it is avoidance. You might remember how often you tried to decode the mixed signals, the way he would shower you with attention only to retreat without explanation, the way his words sounded promising but his actions never followed through. The confusion was exhausting because it forced you to live in a state of emotional uncertainty. And here's the truth. Inconsistency is a form of control. It keeps you craving the moments when he is attentive, so much so that you tolerate the emptiness when he withdraws. This is how people who use others maintain power, by making reliability rare enough to feel like a reward. But love should never feel like guessing. It should not keep you questioning whether you matter today or if you'll be forgotten tomorrow. Consistency is not complicated. It is the natural outcome of care. And the fact that you didn't receive it does not mean you are hard to love. It means he never intended to invest beyond what benefited him. His pattern was not a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of his choice. The danger of inconsistency is how deeply it wears down your self-esteem. Each time he pulled away, you questioned yourself. You wonder what you said wrong, what you did wrong, how you could fix it. That spiral of self-blame is exactly what allowed him to keep control. Instead of recognizing his failure to show up, you carried the weight of trying to be more. But let me be clear. Inconsistency is not a mirror of your flaws. It is proof of his inability to give what you deserve. The moment you see this truth, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for effort that never comes. You stop confusing temporary affection with lasting love. You stop justifying the cycle by telling yourself that the good moments outweigh the bad. Because in healthy love, there are no cycles. There is steadiness. There is presence. There is trust that doesn't vanish with the setting sun. Picture yourself now demanding that steadiness not as a favor, but as a standard. Imagine how different it feels when you know where you stand every single day. when you no longer chase reassurance because it is already woven into the relationship. That is the freedom you step into when you walk away from inconsistency. You are no longer the one waiting by the phone, replaying excuses, or hoping for scraps of attention. You are the one who knows your value, the one who commands reliability, the one who chooses peace over chaos. Consistency is not too much to ask. It is the baseline of love. And when you accept nothing less, you will never again be blind to someone who only shows up when it suits them. You will see through the patterns instantly. You will walk away with confidence. And in doing so, you will save your heart for the one who doesn't just appear sometimes, but who chooses you every single day. Another sign he was using you was how little he gave when you needed him most. Think back to the moments when your heart was heavy, when you longed for comfort, when you simply wanted to feel that someone had your back. Did he show up? Or did he disappear, offering excuses instead of presence, silence instead of support? Real love is tested in the hard times. It does not vanish when you struggle. It leans in, it carries some of the weight. It reassures you that you are not alone. But when someone is only in your life to take, they retreat the moment giving becomes inconvenient. This absence leaves a wound deeper than words can explain, because when you love someone, you expect them to stand with you. And when they don't, the silence becomes louder than any argument. You felt it in the pit of your stomach, the disappointment of realizing that the person you cared for wasn't dependable. Instead of being a source of strength, he became a reminder of your loneliness. That is one of the cruelest aspects of being used. You discover that the loyalty you gave so freely was never truly returned. Human beings are wired for connection. We thrive when we feel supported, when we know we can lean on someone without fear of being a burden. That is what makes relationships powerful. But when the one you counted on proved absent, your nervous system registered it as a threat. Your body went into overdrive, filling you with anxiety, doubt, and restlessness. You weren't just hurt emotionally, you were destabilized mentally and physically. That is why it felt so draining, so disorienting, so heavy. Yet here's the truth that will set you free. His failure to show up was never about your worth. It was about his lack of depth. Some people only know how to take because giving requires a maturity they haven't developed. Some people flee from real responsibility because it exposes their inability to love beyond surface level. He wasn't there when you needed him, not because you asked for too much, but because he was never capable of offering enough. Now imagine flipping this pain into power. Instead of seeing his absence as rejection, see it as revelation. It revealed who he truly was. It showed you the ceiling of what he could offer. And once you know someone's ceiling, you stop expecting them to rise higher. You stop waiting for them to transform into a partner they will never be. That clarity is your freedom. From this moment on, promise yourself you will never again settle for someone who vanishes when life gets hard. Promise yourself you will only welcome those who meet you with steady hands, open hearts, and unwavering loyalty, because you deserve a love that doesn't crumble under pressure. You deserve someone who shows up, not just in the sunshine, but also in the storm. Feel the strength of that promise filling you now. Feel the shift inside as you realize that his absence was not your loss, it was your lesson. A lesson that makes you wiser, stronger, and more determined to demand the love you deserve. From this day forward, no one gets to use you by being absent when you need them most, because you are no longer blind. You see clearly, and you choose better. Control often hides itself in small, subtle ways, and one of the clearest signs he was using you was how your needs always seemed to take second place to his. Think back to the moments when you expressed what mattered to you. Did he genuinely listen? Or did he brush it aside, convincing you it wasn't that important, making you feel guilty for even asking? This is not compromise, it is dismissal. A partner who values you seeks balance. They may not always agree, but they respect your needs as equal to their own. Someone who uses you twists the dynamic so that everything revolves around them, while you are left adjusting, bending, and silencing yourself to keep the peace. Over time, this quiet dismissal chips away at your confidence. You begin to question whether your feelings are valid. You tell yourself not to complain, not to expect too much, not to make things difficult. That self-censorship is the result of conditioning. It is the outcome of being trained to put someone else's comfort above your own. But the truth is, your needs are not too much. Your voice is not a burden. Your emotions are not inconveniences. They are signals that you deserve care, attention, and respect. When someone consistently ignores those signals, they are not simply neglecting you. They are using you. They take your silence as permission to continue. They take your patience as tolerance for their selfishness. They take your willingness to adapt as proof that they don't need to change. And without realizing it, you begin to live in a relationship where your entire role is to give while expecting little in return. That is not love. That is imbalance. The most painful part of this dynamic is how invisible it can feel to others. On the outside, everything might appear fine, but inside you feel the erosion. You feel yourself shrinking. You feel yourself constantly negotiating between your desires and his demands, always sacrificing pieces of yourself to keep things intact. That constant giving without receiving is what leaves you drained. And drained love is not love at all. It is survival. But survival is not where your story ends. The fact that you are here now listening, seeking truth, proves that your spirit is refusing to stay silent any longer. That is strength. That is your inner self demanding to be heard again. And once you reconnect with that truth, you will no longer accept being dismissed. You will no longer confuse his convenience with care. You will no longer silence your needs in order to maintain a peace that was never truly peace. Real love honors you. It doesn't ask you to disappear so someone else can shine brighter. It doesn't demand that you constantly adjust while the other person stays the same. It doesn't turn your needs into inconveniences. It treats them as opportunities to grow closer. When you stop tolerating anything less, you send a clear signal to yourself and to the world. You are worthy of balance, of respect, of reciprocity. Feel the power of that realization. Feel the strength in knowing that your needs matter. Feel the shift as you reclaim the space you once gave away. Because from this point forward, no one gets to use you by silencing your voice or minimizing your worth. You are awake now. You see clearly. And you will only accept a love that lifts you, not one that diminishes you. Another clear sign he was using you is how everything always seemed to benefit him more than it benefited you. Think about the favors, the compromises, the sacrifices you made. You gave your time, your energy, your love, and often your resources while he positioned himself at the center of it all. He leaned on your kindness, your generosity, your willingness to go the extra mile. But when it came time for him to reciprocate, his effort was absent. This is not balance. This is extraction. It is the dynamic of someone who takes without ever truly giving back. When someone values you, they are mindful of the exchange. They want you to feel nourished, not depleted. They care about your well-being as much as their own. But when someone uses you, they disguise their taking as normal. They normalize a pattern where your giving becomes expected, while their contribution is optional. Over time, you may not even realize how much you've been giving away. It happens gradually until you wake up one day and feel exhausted, wondering why your heart feels so empty when you've poured so much into another person. This is where psychology reveals a trap. People who take advantage often rely on what's called the norm of reciprocity, the natural human instinct to return kindness when it's received. But when they know you are generous, they exploit that instinct. They give just enough in the beginning to earn your trust, then gradually replace their effort with expectation. You start to feel guilty if you don't give. You start to feel like it's your duty to always be there. And because you love deeply, you comply, even at the cost of your own needs. But here's the empowering truth. Love is not measured by how much you sacrifice for someone who gives nothing in return. Love is measured by balance, by equality, by two people choosing to invest in each other's happiness. If his actions left you feeling like a source of supply rather than a cherished partner, you were not experiencing love. You were experiencing use. And the fact that you see it now means you are awakening to your worth. Imagine what it feels like to no longer be drained by one-sided giving. Imagine surrounding yourself with people who pour into you just as much as you pour into them. Picture how it feels to be appreciated without needing to prove your value through endless sacrifice. That vision is not a fantasy. It is the life you create when you refuse to be used. It begins the moment you declare that your energy is not an endless resource for others to consume. You have to understand your given nature is not the problem. It is your strength, your gift, your beauty, but it must be protected. Because when generosity is unguarded, it attracts those who only take. When you honor it, it attracts those who respect and match it. And that difference changes everything. So let this truth rise inside you. You are not here to be drained. You are here to be loved, valued, and supported in equal measure. From this day forward, no one gets to use your kindness as a weakness. No one gets to take without giving. No one gets to reduce your love to a transaction. You are awake now, and you will only give to those who honor the privilege of receiving your heart. Another painful sign he was using you was how he kept you in uncertainty about the future. When someone truly loves you, they want to build something lasting. They include you in their plans. They speak of tomorrow with clarity, and they create a sense of stability that allows your heart to rest. But when someone is only using you, they avoid commitment. They keep their words vague, their promises empty, their timelines undefined. They feed you just enough hope to keep you waiting, but never enough truth to move forward together. You may recall the way conversations about the future felt slippery. He would change the subject, laugh it off, or give non-committal answers that left you guessing. Sometimes he dangled possibilities, speaking of someday but never following through. That uncertainty was not by accident. It was a strategy, whether conscious or not, to keep you invested without him ever having to fully invest in return. By keeping you in limbo, he ensured you were always available, always hopeful, always holding on. But hope without clarity is a trap. It keeps you tied to a vision that only exists in your imagination, not in reality. And that gap between what you longed for and what he actually offered created constant emotional tension. You told yourself to be patient, that love takes time, that maybe he just wasn't ready. But deep down, you knew that someone who truly wanted a future with you would not leave you guessing. Real love doesn't avoid clarity. It creates it. Psychology teaches us that uncertainty is one of the most powerful stressors for the human mind. It hijacks your thoughts, keeps you restless, and fuels anxiety. That's why relationships built on uncertainty feel so draining. Your nervous system is constantly on edge, scanning for signs, searching for reassurance, waiting for stability that never arrives. Over time, this erodes not just your confidence in the relationship, but your confidence in yourself. You start to wonder if you are asking for too much when in reality you are only asking for the bare minimum, honesty and direction. The turning point comes when you realize that clarity is not a luxury, it is a necessity. You deserve someone who is unafraid to claim you, unafraid to say, yes, you are my person, and this is where we are going. Anything less is not love, it is convenience. If he couldn't give you that, then he wasn't building with you, he was simply keeping you as an option. And you are far too valuable to ever be treated as an option. Feel the power of recognizing this. Feel how freeing it is to no longer be trapped in uncertainty. Imagine how peaceful it feels to know where you stand, to be with someone whose words and actions align, who makes you feel secure rather than unsettled. That is what you deserve. That is what you will claim when you refuse to settle for half promises and empty tomorrows. From this moment forward, let every vague word, every unclear plan, every empty promise be a red flag, not a reason to wait longer. Let your heart demand the stability it has always longed for, because you are not here to live in limbo. You are here to build, to grow, to love with certainty. And once you embrace that truth, no one will ever use your hope against you again. Another way you can recognize he was using you is by looking at how invisible you sometimes felt, even when you were right beside him. Love has a way of making us feel seen, known, and cherished. But when someone is only there to take, they strip that away. You could be giving your all, showing up in every possible way, and yet feel as if you didn't exist in his world beyond what you could provide. That emptiness, that quiet ache of being present but unseen is one of the clearest signs that you were never valued the way you deserve. You probably remember moments when your thoughts, your feelings, and even your presence seems to go unnoticed. He heard your words, but didn't listen. He took your care, but didn't acknowledge it. He accepted your time, but didn't honor it. That wasn't forgetfulness. It was a choice. Because when someone truly cares, they make you feel significant. They don't just use your energy, they appreciate it. They don't just benefit from your presence, they recognize it. To feel unseen in love is to feel slowly erased. And that is the exact position you were put in. Psychologists tell us that one of our deepest human needs is recognition. We thrive when we feel acknowledged. We crumble when we feel invisible. And the pain of being unseen by someone you love can be sharper than outright rejection because it leaves you questioning your worth. It makes you wonder if maybe you're too much or too little, when in reality, the problem was never you. It was his inability or unwillingness to truly see the value right in front of him. This dynamic is another way people maintain control. By not giving you recognition, he kept you striving. You worked harder to be noticed, tried more to be appreciated, pushed yourself to be enough. But here's the truth. Love should not feel like an audition. You should not have to perform to be worthy of acknowledgement. The very fact that you exist, that you give, that you love is already enough. The blindness was his, not yours. When you recognize this, you stop chasing visibility in the eyes of someone who refuses to look. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into the shadows they create. You stop measuring your worth by the scraps of acknowledgement you receive. Because once you decide that your presence is powerful, that your voice matters, that your heart is undeniable, you no longer tolerate being unseen. You demand recognition not as a favor, but as your birthright. Imagine how your spirit will rise when you surround yourself with people who notice the details, who listen with intention, who honor your existence as a gift. Imagine the peace that comes from being loved without having to beg for acknowledgement. That is the life waiting for you when you step away from those who use you. You are not here to be invisible. You are here to shine, to be seen, to be valued fully and deeply. Let this truth settle in your bones. If he could not see you, it was never because you lacked light. It was because he chose blindness, and you no longer choose to live in the shadows of someone else's neglect. From this moment on, you will only allow yourself to be where your presence is recognized, where your worth is celebrated, and where your light is welcome, never dim. Another sign he was using you lies in how he made you question your own reality. Think of the times you brought up your concerns, the moments you tried to express that something felt off. Instead of listening, he twisted the conversation. He made you feel like you were overreacting, too sensitive, or imagining things. This tactic has a name, gaslighting, and it is one of the most powerful tools of manipulation. By making you doubt your perception, he gained control. The more you second-guess yourself, the easier it became for him to continue taking without accountability. Gaslighting is not love. Love validates your feelings, even if it doesn't fully understand them. Love seeks clarity, not confusion. Love doesn't make you feel like you're crazy for noticing the truth. But when someone is using you, they cannot allow you to fully trust your instincts because your instincts would expose them. So instead, they distort your reality, making you question your memory, your emotions, even your intuition. Over time, you stop trusting yourself and you begin to rely on them for validation. That dependence is exactly what they wanted. The danger of this is profound. When you lose trust in your own inner voice, you lose the compass that protects you. You silence your own wisdom. You ignore the signals of your body and your heart. And in doing so, you remain trapped in a cycle of manipulation, believing the lies over your own truth. But here is the power you must reclaim. Your intuition is never wrong. It might not always explain everything in words, but it always senses when something is off. The unease you felt, the tension in your chest, the knot in your stomach, that was your truth trying to speak. The fact that you doubted yourself was not weakness. It was the result of being systematically undermined. But now you see it clearly. You see how he used confusion to keep you compliant, and once you see it, you can never be trapped in it again. Because the moment you begin trusting yourself again, the illusion collapses. His words lose their power. His manipulation loses its grip. You awaken to the strength that was always within you. Imagine what it feels like to live fully connected to your intuition again, to hear your inner voice and honor it without hesitation, to know without doubt that when something feels wrong, you don't need permission to believe it, you simply act. That is the freedom that comes when you step out of the fog of gaslighting. You no longer allow anyone to distort your reality. You no longer hand over the authority of your truth to someone else. You live anchored in self-trust, and from that place you become unshakable. No one can use you when you trust yourself. No one can twist your reality when you are rooted in your own clarity. No one can make you feel invisible, small, or uncertain when you listen to the wisdom inside of you. That is your power. That is your protection. And that is the gift you carry forward, the ability to believe yourself above all else. From this day on, you will never again question your worth because of someone else's lies. You will see through manipulation instantly. and you will walk away with certainty because you finally know the truth. Your intuition is your greatest weapon, and it will never lead you astray. There is another truth you cannot ignore. When someone is using you, they never truly invest in you. They take your energy, your time, your love, but they do not pour anything back. They may offer just enough to keep you holding on, but never enough to build something real. This imbalance is not accidental. It is intentional because real investment requires care, effort, and sacrifice. And a person who only seeks to benefit from you will avoid giving those things. They will let you do the heavy lifting while they collect the rewards. Think about how many times you carried the weight of the relationship. You planned, you showed up, you gave your best. Meanwhile, he coasted, always finding a way to take more while giving less. He knew how much you cared, and he used that to his advantage. He may have given you moments of charm, brief glimpses of affection, but they were crumbs designed to keep you hopeful. Not because he wanted to build with you, but because he wanted to keep you in place while he took what he needed. This lack of investment is one of the clearest signs of being used. When someone truly values you, they match your energy. They meet your efforts with equal commitment. They don't leave you drained. They fill you. But when someone is only there for themselves, you end up feeling empty. You feel like no matter how much you give, it's never enough to create balance. And that emptiness is not love. It is exploitation wrapped in the disguise of affection. Psychology shows us that humans are wired for reciprocity. When someone gives to us, we naturally feel compelled to give back. But when that cycle is broken, when one person keeps giving and the other keeps taking, the relationship becomes toxic. The giver begins to burn out. The taker grows more entitled, and the bond becomes less about connection and more about control. That is the trap you were placed in. You were conditioned to keep giving, hoping that one day it would be enough to earn equal love. But the truth is, you were never meant to earn love. Real love flows both ways freely, without conditions. Now you must reclaim your energy. You must demand reciprocity, not as a favor, but as the foundation of any bond you allow in your life. Imagine what it feels like to be with someone who invests in you as much as you invest in them. Someone who shows up with the same level of devotion, effort, and care. Someone who leaves you fuller, stronger, and more alive, not drained and questioning yourself. That is the love you deserve. That is the standard you must set. From this moment forward, you will never again settle for one-sided love. You will never again confuse crumbs for a feast. You will never again sacrifice your peace for someone unwilling to meet you halfway. You will stand firmly in the truth that your energy is precious, and only those who respect it, nurture it, and return it deserve a place in your life. Because you are not here to be used. You are here to be cherished, and you will no longer accept anything less. Another way he revealed his intentions was through the absence of respect. Respect is the foundation of every healthy connection. Without it, love cannot survive. When someone respects you, they honor your boundaries, they value your opinions, and they treat your presence as sacred. But when someone is using you, respect disappears. They may dismiss your feelings, ignore your needs, or treat your time as if it doesn't matter. This lack of respect is not a small detail. It is a loud declaration that they never saw you as equal, only as a resource to exploit. Think back to the moments when your boundaries were crossed. Perhaps you said no, yet it was brushed aside. Perhaps you voiced your concerns, only to be mocked or minimized. Respectful people listen and adjust. Those who use you dismiss and continue. Every time your limits were ignored, it was a reminder that your voice was not honored. And slowly, you may have begun to believe that your needs weren't important. That illusion is dangerous because it conditions you to accept less than you deserve. But the truth is, your needs are not negotiable. They are part of your worth, and they are non-optional. Respect is not earned by endless sacrifice. It is given freely when someone truly values you. And when respect is absent, what you are experiencing is not love, it is control. Psychology shows us that disrespect is one of the earliest indicators of emotional exploitation. It's how manipulators test your tolerance. They can erode your boundaries. They can increase their control. And if you remain silent, they grow bolder. The cycle continues until you no longer recognize yourself because you've been conditioned to place their comfort above your dignity. But here is your turning point. Respect begins with you. When you demand it from yourself, you teach the world how to treat you. When you set clear boundaries and enforce them without apology, you protect your energy from those who would exploit it. When you walk away from anyone who cannot honor your value, you declare that your worth is not negotiable. This shift is not about arrogance. It is about alignment with the truth of who you are. Imagine how it feels to stand in your power, no longer bending to disrespect, no longer tolerating dismissal. Imagine being surrounded by people who not only hear your voice, but also cherish it, who not only respect your boundaries, but also protect them. That is not a fantasy. It is your reality once you decide that respect is the minimum, not a luxury. And here is what happens when you embrace this truth. The wrong people fall away because they cannot survive in the presence of strong boundaries. But the right people are drawn closer because respect is their natural language. You no longer chase validation because you live in self-validation. You no longer explain your worth because your presence speaks it louder than words ever could. The days of being disrespected are over. The days of being treated as less are gone. From this moment forward, you rise into a new standard. You will not shrink for anyone. You will not lower your boundaries for comfort, and you will not apologize for demanding the respect you deserve. Because respect is love in action, and you are worthy of nothing less. Another undeniable sign that he was using you is the way he kept you in a constant state of uncertainty. Real love brings stability. It grounds you, gives you peace, and creates a safe space where your heart can rest. But when someone is only there to take, they thrive on confusion. They give just enough to keep you hopeful, then withdraw enough to keep you insecure. They keep you guessing, wondering where you stand, questioning whether you matter. That emotional chaos was never an accident. It was a tactic designed to keep you off balance and under control. Think of how often you felt like you were walking on eggshells, afraid to say the wrong thing or ask for too much. One day he seemed attentive, the next he was distant. One moment he pulled you close, the next he pushed you away. That hot and cold cycle is one of the clearest signs of manipulation, because when you never know what version of him you'll get, you spend all your energy trying to earn consistency. You try harder, you give more, you sacrifice your peace in the hope that stability will finally come.